Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to Starbucks. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, we have Jim Rosati. Jim, happy Monday. Happy MLB Playoffs. Happy Arizona Fall League. Happy no longer talking about the Pirates, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening, but at the same time, there's not a lot of stuff happening.
Right. There's a lot of stuff happening for other people and other podcasts to talk about. For us, we have about a month to sit back and relax.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about it a little bit over the weekend. It's kind of like that. It's a weird time for Pirates fans. There's the playoffs, there's the off season, but the Pirates aren't participating in the playoffs. And the off season, you really can't do anything until the playoffs are over. There's not a whole lot there to do. You can sign your current guys, I guess, to extensions and things like that. But outside of that, not a whole lot happening at the major league level.
Yeah, excuse me. Exactly. So unfortunately for us, it's not like it's again like it is that weird time because we're going to spend probably a lot of time this month talking about other teams and like wrapping up the season. You don't want to get too far ahead because, like you said, there's not a whole lot you can actually do right now either. So, yeah, you can only reflect for so long. I would hate for a whole month having a Starbucks and an NS9 live just talking about the past after we talked about 161 times this season in post game shows. So, but I mean, hey, again though, like it is a fun time. MLB playoffs exists. If you're a Pirates fan, you're probably a fan of baseball. So we'll talk about that. But like the other thing too is, as you mentioned, it's the Arizona Fall League. It's happening right now, right? And we'll talk about it some more extent here. But like, there's not a whole lot of inspiring players involved in the Arizona Fall League this year. So, like last year, like, hey, Nick Gonzalez was there, Henry Davis was there. Like there's some players you want to see, you want to talk about. Not so much this year.
Yeah, it's a uninspiring crop of players, I guess you could put it. There are a few interesting names worth following, and we'll get into those guys. There's a pretty cool story, with with Alessandro Ercolani. I think that's how you pronounce his name, but he he's got an interesting story, and they actually just did like a feature article on him on MLB.com a couple days ago. So we'll talk about him a little bit. But yeah, Jack Brannigan, Chase Bowen, Carter Binns are your three position players on Salt River Rafters. But yeah, we'll get into it. Just not the most exciting, inspiring bunch of prospects. I've been following the Arizona Fall League for a while, and probably the worst crop of guys the Pirates have ever sent. And I don't mean that like in a bad way. It's just the thing about this organization right now is a lot of the talent that they had stockpiled that would typically be in the Arizona Fall League. Your guys who are in AA and AAA who maybe you need to see a little bit more of because they need, we need a 40-man roster decision or something like that this offseason. There just aren't a lot of those guys in the system right now because they all got promoted this year. Like all the guys who you would typically send to the Arizona Fall League are actually in Pittsburgh now. So those higher tier prospects just aren't even really available to send out there. And you're not sending your pitchers who just threw an entire season of starts. Like you're not You're not sending like Jared Jones isn't going to their Arizona Fall League. Thomas Harrington isn't going to the Arizona Fall League. Paul Skeens isn't going to the Arizona Fall League, as Jamie brings up in the comments here, right? Like those people who threw 100+ innings this year, they're not going to the Arizona Fall League. These are relievers who they just want to see a little bit more of for the most part.
Yeah, like your Colin Selby's last year.
Yep.
Which, although I mean, like Colin Selby going, there was a little bit of intrigue with him. We talked about him last year, what he could be for the future and such. But again, like it's as a reliever, as you mentioned. Um, yeah, it's like it's weird because you're right. This is probably the air quotes worst group of talent that's gone over to the Arizona Fall League from the Pirates in recent years. And like, but I don't feel like it's much of an indictment of like the Pirates farm system. Like you said, it more or less is just like they're in that weird lull.
They are. They're in the same weird stage of their rebuild that we are in the offseason.
Right. Yeah. It seems as if like a lot of the talent was in the upper levels and then the rest of the talent's in the very lower levels. And like that in between spot right now that they're seeing is just it exists. There's not a whole lot of guys. I mean, honestly, like you look at Altoona right now, and then up into Indy right now, like there wasn't a whole lot of dudes, right? They're all in like the low A's now and high A's, right? So, yeah, I guess it's more of that, which is okay. It's okay. Obviously for the Pirates, you want to see those guys that have graduated, not be in the fall league now, perform in the minor leagues, or sorry, the major league is good. And then the guys in the lower minor leagues start to progress and become dudes now in double A and triple A for a couple of years in the future. But yeah, and like you said, of the names mentioned, I don't know, like, like you're talking about Carter Binns, and I feel like if he ends up being a Jason Delay, that's a huge W. But like
Right.
that's where like Jason Bowen, I don't know. Like if any of these guys end up being like a role player on the Pirates, I feel like that's a W.
Yeah, and if you're talking, if we're looking at the position players, right? So if we want to dive in here, Jace Bowen, Carter Binns, Jack Brannigan, all three guys who I think are certainly capable of making the major leagues, at
Mhm.
some point, during their development. Um, but you're probably not looking at any future major league starters at all. Um,
Right.
Jace Bowen's power is certainly intriguing. I hate using that word. You got me using that word. Dang it.
Good.
It's a real tool that he possesses, right? 23 homers in 110 games this year in Greensboro. He was a high school pick in 2019, an 11th round pick. He's shown, some power kind of throughout his whole development through the minors. He hit 14 homers in Bradenton at age 20, 17 homers last year between Bradenton and Greensboro. So the power is certainly coming around for him. The strikeouts, his strikeout rate was, he cut it down quite a bit this year to at least a level that you can accept, from a power hitting outfielder. So he's certainly the most interesting name, in my opinion, that's over there. He got the late season promotion to Double A. Only played 8 games, so not really a whole lot you can take from that. But he's going to be someone who starts in Double A next year. He's going to be 23 years old. Kind of plays all around the diamond. You can put him in the corner outfield spots. You can put him at first base. Like the guy kind of plays all over the place, and that's kind of been evidenced by his Arizona Fall League so far. He's playing a lot of positions. He's actually the only player on Salt River who played all 6 games last week too. So getting a lot of playing time there. He's has the second best OPS through the first week of the season. It's got 3 doubles, 8 hits in that first week of ball. He's hitting 320, slugging 520. So he's off to a good start down there. And yeah, I think he's certainly the name that you're most interested in. He is Rule 5 eligible this year. So you do have to kind of make that decision.
Mhm.
Is Jace Bowen somebody you protect? I don't think he is. Like, I don't think anybody is going out there and drafting Jace Bowen based off of a decent high A season last year. But this is just an opportunity for the Pirates to get a few more looks at him against some pretty good competition and see if he's somebody that they need to add this offseason.
Right. Yeah, that's a good call. And getting into that spot, like the Arizona Fall League can be used in a lot of that sense. Like the guys that are Rule 5 eligible, it gives you an extra look, other competition. But to stay in that realm, I think you're absolutely right. I don't think you're protecting Jace Bowman. Like, honestly, like think about we talked about Malcolm Nunez last year and like the Mason Martins, and I think they're much better prospects uh in that sense than Jace Bowman, and also closer. So yeah, I don't think the Pirates. I mean, we talked about the 40-man crunch to begin with. I don't think the Pirates could afford to protect this type of player. This is maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, potentially. But right now in this stage, like if you lose a Jace Bowen, I don't think the Pirates should be crying. Um, it's more of an indictment that this team is in a better spot that they can't protect the Jace Bowen.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It's like it's like a little bit. He's a little bit old right now. Like you said, 23 years old, just hitting Double A. But like there is a real talent there, as you mentioned, with the power. And right now in the Arizona Fall League, like, it is showing off. Like you mentioned, 4 extra base hits. But that's the other thing with the Arizona Fall League. It kind of goes in hand with like what you mentioned about the pitching. Like you're not really usually finding too many like stud pitchers in the Arizona Fall League. So again, it's Arizona. So you're gonna usually see numbers that are skewed a little bit. um
Yeah. I mean, it's a weird environment because as from a pitching standpoint, a lot of teams aren't sending their top pitching prospects, like unless they missed a lot of time early in the year or something like that with an injury, and
right.
they just want to see them more. I mean, they exist, right? I mean, if you just look at some of the players on um let's see, if we're looking at some of the players on Salt River, like Jackson Job's in there. He was a top 5 overall pick. Blake Walston's in there. So you've got a couple guys, Case Williams. So they exist, but they're not out there pitching 6, 7 innings either. Jackson Job had a start last week and pitched 4 scoreless. But you're right. Like it's a weird mix of pitching prospects in the Arizona Fall League, and sometimes the offensive numbers are. I mean, you're in Phoenix, so you're in kind of that same environment that Chase Field is in. It would be the equivalent of it's the second highest elevation in Major League Baseball, but it's not
Right.
it's not Coors Field by any means, but it is a little bit better of a hitting environment. Yeah, as I said, Jace Bowen's probably, the most interesting guy to pay attention to because of that Rule 5 status. I guess you could even say Carter Benz, but no one's taking Carter Benz in the Rule 5 draft. I don't think so. Jack Brannigan had a really, really nice year this year. The other position player the Pirates sent. I'm just a little bit leery on deeming guys who strike out a third of the time in high A after going to college as someone that I'm really gonna pay too much attention to. Like
Right.
he's definitely like on the radar as a prospect. Uh, Plays good defense. Has a little bit of pop. Basically hit 300 at Greensboro. Slugged 605. So like it was there, but he struck out 33.5% of the time. As a college bat, you expected him to hit really well in Bradenton because he's more advanced than that. And then when he gets to Greensboro, you need to see more contact from Jack Brannigan, and that's coming to play here too in the Arizona Fall League. He has 14 at bats. He's struck out 8 times so far. So he's
Yeah.
he's been the worst hitter on Salt River through the first week. He did finally pick up his first hit the other day, but he's 1 for 14.
Yep. It's one of those things. It's like not to comp, right? But like the Mason Martin effect. Like you look at the numbers, and the numbers look outstanding. Like you mentioned this year in high A, 299, 382, slugged 605, a 159 weighted runs created plus. Like you look at those numbers, you're like, this guy's is a dude.
Mhm.
Here's a prospect. Like, why aren't we talking more about him? But like you mentioned, you're also 22 years old in high A and literally had a 33.5% K rate. That usually doesn't translate. That usually does not translate. I put out the graphic, this year, and I think I mentioned it like a few times, but just players who have had a K rate at 30% or greater in the minor leagues and who have translated to the majors, and there's literally hardly anyone, right? Like you
Yeah.
look at the guys that are striking out 30% or higher in the majors, and they're striking out at 20, 25%, and in the minors for the most part. So like when you're in high A, striking out 33% of the time, it usually doesn't translate. But again, you don't ignore completely the 605 slugging that just happened.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and like another thing too, like you look at the prospect ranking and stuff. Like Pipeline has, Jace Bowen number 27. They're higher on Brannigan at 21. And like in Fangraphs, they're just
I
double
don't even
checking.
know if Bowen's in the top 30 on Fangraphs, but
He's
Brannigan's
not.
somewhere in there. Yeah, so it's like I said, it's not you're not looking at like impact talent here. It's
Brannigan's 33, by the way.
okay. Yeah, you're not looking at too much impact talent in the Arizona Fall League from the position side of things. You're
Hmm.
really just looking for role players. And like I said, Carter Benz is a guy who could potentially be a backup catcher, right? I mean, can't really hit very well, but you don't really need a backup catcher to hit all that well. If you can hit a little bit cool. So like there's some like at least big league potential there just because of the position that he plays. And
Right.
like I said, Brannigan, if you squint hard enough, you can see it. Jace Bowen, probably ceiling is fourth outfielder, right? So like that's if he reaches his
Palacios.
ceiling. Yeah. Um, so like I said, th- there's guys to pay attention to if you really want to kind of look at like future depth, but you're not going to be looking and tuning into Arizona Fall League games to see, future staples in this Pirates lineup.
Right. Okay. Well, I guess let's just touch a little bit on the pitching. I think that's even behind the hitters as far as mid here. But yeah, I mean, I guess JC Flowers. I guess that's a bit of an intriguing name as far as the pitcher goes.
Ooh, he struggled this year. JC Flowers, I think, was a dark horse guy to, make the opening day roster this past season, especially when all the lefties, started going down and you needed lefties. It was like,
Hmm.
JC Flowers, his name was in there. And from a prospect standpoint, like you like the way he looks, like he's big, tall, lanky. He kind of reminds you of like Angel Perdomo, like that same
Mm.
look from the left side. But who he was bad this year in Indianapolis. He was not good, and I mean I think his ERA was close to 9.
It
Like it
was
was
it was a 9.39 in
okay.
46
Yeah,
innings.
yeah,
I
like
mean, it was.
that's not very good. Um, like, that's not good for anybody. But let me just pull up the stats here so I've got them in front of me. But I think if he and a lot of it's just from the walks. Like he walks way too many people. Um,
He just like was a completely different pitcher this year.
yeah.
I don't know exactly what it was, but he
Though
had
I
some
mean
solid seasons behind him.
yeah, I mean he was pretty good in Double A last year, which is why his name was out there as like a dark horse guy to kind of pick up one of those lefty spots. But yeah, just did not have a good year in Indianapolis at all. Again, another guy who's Rule 5 eligible. If you're a team and you think you can kind of harness the stuff, then maybe you take him because he's got a good slider and he throws left-handed. Like those,
Right.
that's him. But he was so bad this year. I can't imagine somebody taking him and using a 26-man roster spot on this guy. But and maybe the Pirates are putting him in the fall league just to kind of get another last look at him against some good competition, but just a guy who completely kind of fell off the radar. He is only 25, so you could see him putting it together next year. And if he can put together a solid season in AAA, then you're looking at maybe a future lefty reliever who needs to, like, if you need to call upon him, sure, but probably not likely right now,
Right.
based off
I
his
think
year.
it's funny. Jamie says slider left-handed sounds like a pirate already. Like, yeah, actually, this is the guy the Pirates would target, so he's already in
Yeah.
the system. But I'm with you. I don't foresee you again using a 40-man spot on this guy, but it's still a dark horse. But like, I feel like he probably has more potential than any of the hitters we talked about of being picked up. Just again, like the talent. Like I said, this is just an awful, awful year. You look at Altoona last year, 315, 3.15 walks per nine, which is like manageable. He wasn't like a strikeout artist last year, more or less, or
Yeah.
ever. But he didn't walk a lot. 315, you'll live with that. And then like this year, it jumped to 7.63 walks per nine. I mean, it straight doubled and then some. And that's rough, right? So like 288
Mhm.
ERA in Altoona last year, 939 this year. But like you said, he's a lefty. He's got a slider. There's some intrigue there. If someone can go ahead and harness him and make him into something, then potentially, yeah. But yeah, like outside of him, like there's Cam Junker, there's
Cam Junker is kind of this year's Colin Selby
Selby.
type
Yeah.
candidate, right? It's a little bit older of a guy. Not someone you're going to add to the 40 man. I don't think. Like, I don't think you're protecting Cam Junker from a Rule 5 draft. He did put up some okay numbers in AAA this year, but like nothing stood out to you like you really need this guy. Yeah, I mean, looking at the rest of the pitchers, Tyler Samaniego, another lefty prospect, struggled again. Didn't do as poorly as Flowers, but also didn't really perform all too well. Strikeout rate was there for him, at least, where it wasn't necessarily there with Flowers. So, like I said, maybe there's a little bit something there. Nick Domkowski, I don't really see it with him. They tried starting him a few times in Altoona this year too, and just wasn't there. The one guy I think is kind of interesting, just because you usually don't see pitchers this young go to the Arizona Fall League, and that is Alessandro Ercolani, 19 years old, just turned 19 this year in April. He was in Bradenton, right-handed thrower, put up okay numbers, especially at that age, at that level. 4.43 ERA, and he starts. So,
Mhm.
been using him out of the bullpen so far in the Arizona Fall League. Actually, has he even pitched yet? Yeah, he has. So he's pitched 2 innings. Hasn't done great, by the way. None of these pitchers are really doing all that well. But I guess he's your most interesting name just because of the age. The stuff, he hits like mid 90s with a fastball, throws a cutter, throws a breaking ball, also has a changeup. So, like, he's got a pretty good arsenal of pitches so far at age 19. And yeah, I think that's a kind of a cool story. Signed out of San Marino, which, you know, I don't know if there's ever been a Major League Baseball player from San Marino. I don't think, has there been a Major League Baseball player like born in like Europe other than what's his
Well,
name?
yeah.
Neverauskas?
Oh,
Like,
okay. Well,
have there
there
been like
goes my
any?
joking player.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I don't know if there's been any other European born baseball players.
Um, well, if you take out also born over there because like your dad's stationed there, because wasn't what's his face
Yeah, maybe
also
that
for the
that
twins, I
could
think.
count. Where you're like a U.S. citizen, you were born on like
Yeah.
Army base or something. Yeah, that makes
God, who was
sense.
the twins hitter? I don't know. Anyways, I know there's that, but yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
like actual like European players like you're mentioning.
And like San
Um,
Marino of all places, it's just like it's like a town basically. It's not even like
right.
I mean, it's a real country, but like barely.
Barely. Yeah, but like you said, like it's more of a cool story at this point than it is
Yeah.
like, hey, here's an intriguing prospect.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the fact that he is 19 is pretty unique in that sense too. But yeah, like again, like when it comes to the pitching, it's for an uninspiring group, this is the least inspiring of them. And what's also kind of funny, if you go to Arizona Fall League and you sort the pitching by ERA and then you do the reverse, right? You go by the highest number, then that's kind of where these pitchers funnel up to. You can see most of them on the first page. So that tells
So
you a
that's not
lot
good.
too.
That's
Right.
not great. Yeah, if you're sorting by ERA and you have to click the second time to make it
Yeah.
like a descending order, and that's how you find your guys,
Right.
it's not good.
Yep.
But yeah, so far not a great week for the pitching. I don't think any of them, in fact, have an ERA under 9.
Right. So there you go. So there you go.
Yeah, there you
But
go.
at any rate, I mean, we'll talk. It's just the first week, you know. I mean, some of these guys, especially the pitchers, pitched one game or such, you know, just a few innings. It is what it
Right.
is. But we'll talk a little bit more about them throughout the season, I guess, since you know there's not a whole lot to really talk about Pirates related.
Yeah, well, I mean,
But
the Arizona Fall League, we'll touch on them, every week or so. It's fun to, it's at least fun to have people playing baseball right now.
yeah, there you go. Speaking of people playing baseball, you want to talk a little bit about the playoffs that are happening right now?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, I think the wild card round was very uneventful. I mean,
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
all 4 rounds were done in 2 games. Like there were no game threes. I always like the elimination, like those final games. I feel like you need more of those. But I think all the teams that we're seeing now, like these are the guys that you want to see. Orioles are down 2-0. It's a little crazy at
Surprising.
home. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rangers are a good team, but yeah, you would have hoped the Orioles could have taken one at home. They look like they're gonna get bounced pretty early here as they head back to Texas. National League Game 2, those are gonna be tonight. The most fun series that I'm thinking of is this Phillies Braves series. Like those are just 2 teams with really cool personalities that love playing baseball. They love playing baseball against each other. They're just well put together teams too that are like built for the postseason. That's Phillies Braves is just good baseball.
Yeah, and, like, the thing about that series too is, like, when you look at this thing on paper, I mean, hands down, you look at the Braves on paper, they're unbeatable. Like, how do you defeat this? How did this team ever lose a game? Right? That's what you look at. But, like, they were also good last year, you know, and Phillies are a good team as well. But, like, I don't know if, like, you compare them to the Braves and say, "Oh, yeah, this is a team that can beat them." But, like, the Phillies dominated them last year in the playoffs on their way to victory. And here we go
Yeah.
again. They're already up 1-0 in this series. So like that's what's kind of intriguing to me also. Like, are the Braves going to be able to get past the Phillies again? Are they going to
I'll
get
s-
bounced like
I'll
this
say
early in
this
the playoffs for being that good of a team?
with as good as that Braves offense is, like the pitching's a little shaky because of injuries. So I mean, you had Spencer Strider start on Saturday, and he pitched well, but you had the Phillies put up a 0, and so he gets tagged with the loss. I mean, tonight's game, Zach Wheeler versus Max Fried. You've got Zach Wheeler on the mound, who potential Cy Young. I mean, he's a Cy Young candidate. Max Fried was hurt a lot of the year. When he was healthy, he was really good. So like this is like the Braves kind of need to take this game. If they don't, they're in a lot of trouble because
Right.
then they're turning to more of their guys that they probably don't want to lean on, in like really super important playoff games, like because then you're getting into like Bryce Elder and stuff like that, who again pitched really well, but I don't know if you necessarily want him pitching in like an elimination game.
Yeah, are you really out there confident in trusting your season on the line with Elder? It's one of those
Yeah,
things. But you're right, like Willer's a dude.
Wheeler's
He's
your
been in a
dude.
situation. Max Free, like you said, like that's pretty much his label. Like he's a really good pitcher when healthy.
Mhm.
He's just got like I don't know if he was questionable like for the series, right? I mean, obviously he's on the roster, he's pitching, but like I think he was questionable coming into it, wasn't he?
Yeah. No, I mean, that whole staff has kind of been has been dealing with stuff.
Mm,
He
yeah.
Freed's issue was a blister. Like he had a blister, I think. So I mean, he's going to play, but yeah, I mean, if the Braves don't win tonight, they're in trouble because then they're going back to Philly and they got to face Aaron Nola.
And more importantly, the Phillies owner in the stands.
Yeah, you got John Middleton in the stands too. Now the one thing that the Braves do have going for them is that off day on Sunday. So like if like they could turn around Spencer Strider quick. Like Spencer Strider could go game 4 for the
Mhm.
Braves if there is a game 4. Whereas like in the American League games, uh, probably can't do that quick of a turnaround with your game 1 starter because of the way the off days turned out. So the Braves have a little bit of advantage there. If they can get to game 4, they can they can go Strider twice here, instead of having to wait for game 5.
Speaking of series in today's games, so Dodgers Diamondbacks. I find this to be kind of intriguing because also same division, right? I mean, these are two guys in the
Yeah.
same division. It's the big bad Dodgers who are just kind of like the Braves. Like you look at it on paper, it's like, well, this team's gonna take it, right? Clayton Kershaw implodes game 1. I mean, Diamondbacks easily take that one. And like there's I mean, trust me, like this isn't like big bad Goliath and little tiny, like, how are the Diamondbacks even in this? But it's not like the Marlins, where the Marlins like,
Right.
that's kind of questionable. Like, how are they even in the playoffs? Like, this is a good, young, talented team, especially have Corbin Carroll leading the way and making all kinds of rookie records for the season. But like, it is a talented team, and now it's Zach Gallen going up against your boy Bobby Miller. Like, this is one of those things too. Dodgers kind of need to take this one tonight. I feel. And
Oh yeah.
the Diamondbacks put up their 2 dudes, right away, and Zach Allen's the second one right now, and, like, if they take this and the Dodgers down 2-0, like, you talk about turnaround, like, the Diamondbacks can turn these 2 guys around the rotation as well and pitch again.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the Diamondbacks can go with Gallen in like a potential game 5, but they can certainly go with Merrill Kelly in a game 4.
Mhm.
Um, it's yeah. What's crazy about that series is it's Clayton Kershaw, like game 1, and it's just it's so weird that for most of our adult lives, like I mean, Clayton Kershaw has been pitching since I was a junior in college, right?
2008.
And he's been a top 3 pitcher in the game during that time frame. But it's just when he gets to the postseason, he's just not the same guy. And you saw he got 1 out. He got 1 out in game 1,
Yeah.
gives up 6 runs, and, like, at that point, the game's pretty much over. So, it's just wild to me that you can have such a dominant pitcher during the regular season, and then once the postseason hits, he's not that ace anymore. He's just a regular guy in the postseason, and that's, putting things, that's
If
being nice to him, really.
yeah.
Last year, his start, he gave up 3 runs in his start last year. That World Series run in 2020, that was really like the only postseason that he put it together. Other than that, like
It was really
it's
just a
just been
dominant World Series run too. Like,
yeah, he went 2-0
playoffs
in the World
beforehand.
Series. Yeah, but it's just wild to me. It's crazy that he just hasn't. He has 39 games in the postseason, 32 starts, and he's basically just an average guy. in the postseason. 4.49 ERA and 32 starts. Like
Yeah,
that's
194 innings. Like you're saying, like he has a full season's worth of starts.
yeah.
And he has a 4.49 ERA. It's Clayton Kershaw, 2.48 ERA for his career in a regular season, right? Like he has a career 2.48 ERA.
Yeah, like people
Career.
forget how good he really is. Like he's like being on the West Coast his whole career. I think you just like don't watch him as much as you see all the other guys.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
He's put just like a completely dominant career up over 16 seasons, and just he's completely pedestrian in the postseason. Like when you need him the most, it's insane.
You're talking, yeah, like he's got 3 Cy Youngs, but also an MVP. Like, you know how hard it is for a pitcher to get an MVP award. He's
Right.
got an MVP. And these are the guys you rely on into the playoffs. I mean, that's honestly like one of the reasons the Dodgers haven't won that many World Series is because Clayton Kershaw pitches
He's
like
the
Andre
main,
Jackson when he goes into the playoffs.
like he's the main guy that you rely on, right? I mean, when you go to the postseason, you want to lean on your ace as much as possible. And
Yep.
Clayton Kershaw has been the Dodgers ace for 15 years. Like even this year, he's 35.
Also,
35 years
You're
old.
waiting for the decline to come, and it really hasn't.
Yeah, he had a 2.46 ERA this year. 2.46. He was basically Carmen Majinski, but starting. Like, I mean, if we're talking about like if we're comparing him to a Pirate, like I mean, David Bednar had an ERA of like 1 or 2.0. Like, when was the last time the Pirates had a starter with an ERA in the twos? I guess did Garrett Cole do it?
In the twos, yeah, but like that's still low. To, like there's still a difference between like a 2.4 and like a 2.8 or 2.9.
Yeah,
I mean,
Garrett
it's
Cole
and
did
it,
it
again,
in
like the two
2015. Yeah.
have like a 2.8 ERA is outstanding.
Yeah, it's. I mean, he was outstanding this year. Yeah, he was outstanding this year at age 35, and then you put him in Game 1 in the playoffs, and he just implodes.
Right.
It's crazy.
I don't know, man, but it's like it really is a thing. I mean, I know people joke about it, but it's legit a thing, and it showed last night. Now, I'll say this: he can go again this series, but like I don't know if that's a good thing. Like that's just like that weird thing.
Exactly.
Like, he's gonna be able to turn around, but is that good? You know. So
I mean, if you're the Dodgers, you have to do it, right? Like you can't just like not turn to Kershaw if he's available. But at the same time, like Kershaw needs to be Kershaw, or the Dodgers are in trouble. And then that's why the Dodgers have like lacked this success lately. Is Kershaw hasn't been Kershaw. The one year that he was, they won the World Series.
right.
Every other
Yeah,
year,
and he
they
absolutely
haven't.
dominated the World Series that year.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about your boy Bobby Miller, though? I mean,
Big
Bobby Miller
stage for
also
him.
had a really solid season. He's young. You think he can do it?
Oh, I know he can do it. You know,
Oh, here we go.
especially with the whole bat. I mean, look at the battery. You got Will Smith, Louisville legend, Bobby Miller, Louisville legend. Yeah, Dodgers are going to win tonight. Will Smith's going to homer, and Bobby Miller's going to go 6 scoreless.
There you have it. Stupid. Both are dudes, though. Will Smith,
Yeah, they're both
definitely
pretty
a
good.
dude.
They're both pretty good. No, but Bobby Miller, like you mentioned, rookie. He's going to be starting Game 2. You know, we all heard a ton about Bobby Miller as he was going up through the minors. He was one of the better right-handed pitching prospects in baseball. And when he hit the majors this year, didn't really miss a beat. Just one of those rare young arms that, you know, as soon as you called him up, he was ready.
Yeah. Going to the AL, I guess. You know, we touched a little bit on Texas, Baltimore. Baltimore, I mean, I know they're young, but I had a little place in my heart for them. I wanted them to do pretty well. I mean, what a turnaround, you know, they had to this year being one of the top teams in baseball. And they're so young, so talented. But again, they're young.
Yeah.
And here we are. They're down 0-2. Texas Rangers, who also, like, the Texas Rangers were at a spot where it's like, are they going to make the playoffs? Right? They had a little funky. I mean, once they acquired Austin Hedges, right? They had a little funky spot where they're losing.
Yeah.
And like I just feel like right now they're clicking at the right spot. They're up 2-0 right now. They won yesterday 11-8. I don't know. What do you think about that series?
Yeah, I mean the Rangers have been playing really good baseball. They've played 4 games so far this postseason, all 4 on the road. They sweep Tampa Bay in Tampa Bay. They win the first 2 games here in Baltimore. Rick Rutter.
Somehow Bucko
Um,
Mike like found
yeah,
our stats.
I'm sure he was doing some research there, but yeah, the Rangers are playing really good ball, and Baltimore surprised me this year. Like I thought Baltimore would be good based off of how they finished last year, but the fact they went out there and they won the American League East was quite impressive. They won 101 games in that division, which is insane for how young that team is. I still think though, like even though they won those 101 games, you still weren't really looking at them as like a World Series favorite. I think there's still just a few pieces that they're missing there to kind of be those guys. And the good thing about the Orioles is because they're so young, their payroll's low. They have an opportunity this offseason to go out there and fill in some holes that they have. Like I would look at the Orioles next year as like a main American League contender. But yeah, the Rangers, they're good. The lineup's solid. A lot of just veterans there who have been through games like this. They've played in the postseason before. They've won. That whole team is just filled with guys who have done it before,
Yeah.
and guys that are still really good, uh, both on both sides of the ball, from offense and on the pitching staff. So Rangers, I mean, I think the Rangers take this series. I would be surprised if that series goes back to Baltimore. You just got to win 1 out of 2 now if you're Texas in at home, and I'm sure they'll be looking forward to playing at home because they haven't played a home playoff game yet. They're, like I said, 4 games so far, all 4 have been on the road. So I would imagine them to get the job done there. And then yeah, Twins Astros, that one's split, heading back to Minnesota. So
That's actually
Twins
that seems
could
like a pretty fun series too.
and the Twins are interesting because of the pitching, right? Like if you look at 1, 2, 3, you're probably not beating the Twins 1, 2, 3 starters between Pablo Lopez, Sonny Gray,
Uh,
and then
oh,
Joe
oh,
Ryan.
oh, say that first name again, Jim. Who?
Let's say Sonny Gray, Joe Ryan, and then Pablo Lopez. No, Pablo Lopez had a great game last night. I think 7 scoreless innings. I mean, just
Because he's
just
a dude.
outstanding postseason so far from him. But no, that those Twins 1, 2, 3 starters, like you're not going to find too much better ones out there, and that's where they can really take advantage. Every game that they've played so far has been just a well played game by them.
I think it's the best way to put it. Like they're a well put together team.
Yeah,
I don't think it's like you don't look at them like the Braves and just like this dominant lineup, but like there's not too many holes on that team either. Like solid pitching, solid lineup, solid bullpen and such, defense. Like honestly, like with Royce Lewis, I talked about last night, together behind the
yeah,
scenes, but like Royce Lewis kind of having the season he's having. I mean, all the injuries, he was an uber talented prospect, right? Like number one prospect, I felt like for 17 years in a row. He
right.
just never was healthy enough to put
I
it
mean,
all together. Um, I mean, I personally, I'm almost like writing him off. It's like, how do you have, first off, this many injuries, the same injury like that many times, just hindering your development? I'm like, if he comes and becomes like just a major league player, like that's probably where he's at. And he came up and he said, "This is why I'm number one prospect." I mean, he came up and he is a dude as far as hitting goes. Just had an outstanding season, and I think that really helped this lineup because hey, they traded the Marlins, right? A guy who fights for a batting title every year. A lot of offense you're giving up there. Now, I'll granted he doesn't hit for power, right? But like you're giving up some offense and such. You need a pitching, and like Royce Lewis was able to just come in and say, "Hey, I'll supplement that offense and do even better for you." So, like he really added length to this lineup as well. So it's like, yeah, I look at this team for the Twins. They're just good. And this is also the Astros team that's just always in the ALCS.
Yeah. No, it's a good team. The Astros are also, just really good all around too.
Right.
Yeah, two good teams. I was expecting, you expect Minnesota to at least make these games good because of the pitching. So that's kind of where, like I said, that's where they're going to win baseball games. The starting pitchers are excellent. The bullpen is excellent. You just need something from the offense. And game two, they were able to get that something. Um, Kyle Farmer with a 3-run homer, that kind of a 2-run homer that kind of put things, uh, that made it 3-0 yesterday, and then they were able to add a few more throughout the game. But that was no, that was a well played game, and you kind of hope that, like, I don't Byron Buxton left off the ALDS roster, but someone who could come back for the ALCS maybe, and then you're just making this team even more dangerous by adding a superstar to its lineup, where again, kind of Royce Lewis and Byron Buxton very similar in that they're both outstanding talents, but just can't stay healthy, and
Right.
so you get both of them in the lineup together, and now this team looks a lot better. Another thing too, I do want to talk about, like Carlos Correa. I feel like he's just been around forever, and like we talked about him last night, just when we were just on PlayStation. But Carlos Correa, 3 for 4 yesterday, huge game, 3 RBIs. He's hitting 533 in the postseason. Has played a ton of postseason baseball. He's only 29 years old. He moved into third all time last night in postseason RBIs. Like, the dude just gets the job done in the postseason. He passed David Ortiz and Derek Jeter, two people who have played a lot of postseason baseball in their careers. He passed them up last night in runs batted in. So they have maybe like the single most impressive postseason bat in their lineup right now. And then again with the pitching staff, I think Minnesota, if they can somehow figure out a way to get past Houston here, Minnesota might be in the World Series.
Yeah. That's a good call. Again,
Yeah.
like this is a talented team for sure. And yeah, that Correa stat just blew my mind. Like you said, you talked about last night, and just he's not even 30 yet. Like how? And
Yeah.
like I get the Astros are a good team. Like he has been in the playoffs, but like you said, so is Derek Jeter. I mean, the Yankees
Yeah.
are like he's third. You understand like how many talented Yankees there are and how they like lived in the playoffs, and Red Sox. And he's this guy from Houston and now Minnesota. And he's third. But you're right. So what, 63 RBIs in 83 total games?
It's a lot of
He's
games. It's like a half a season of postseason baseball he's played in his life.
yeah, for real.
Mhm.
So and he just turned 29. Must be nice. But yeah, and he had a big game. Like he was a big part last night too, of that victory. So yeah, some really good series. I just wanted to point out here as well because it hit me. Max Kepler was the guy I was thinking about. Born in
Ah,
Berlin, Germany.
okay. There we go.
That was the one. But again, like just his dad was stationed there. It's not like he's German and
Still
came
counts
over.
though. I think you can count it, but not really.
We can count it, but I think it wasn't for the way you're trying
Yeah.
to
That one has an
qualify it.
asterisk next to it. That one has an
Right.
asterisk. Yeah.
But yeah, so there's that. So I don't know, fun series. Definitely some good baseball coming up. I'm again like I feel like there's a story, there's intrigue in every one of these series.
Hmm.
But tonight, again, like the Phillies, Braves, Dodgers, Diamondbacks, like the Dodgers and Braves in my eyes are like the two talented teams, and they might be falling. Big night for them.
Yeah, it's a big night of baseball for those two teams, because going into the playoffs, I think I even said it, like The thing I'm
You
most
did.
looking forward to is a Braves Dodgers NLCS, and if they don't get the job done tonight, that might not. I guess probably not going to happen.
Yeah. No. And it's going to be a Diamondbacks Phillies series.
Which will still be fun.
Oh, yeah.
But like the Dodgers, Braves, again, you look at the rosters and it's like, I want to see these guys play a really important baseball game. And yeah, we might not get to see it because they might not be able to get the job done against the people who they beat in their division.
Right. Yep. So there's that. Do we want to just briefly before we go, just touch on some Pirates that are in the playoffs still, some ex-Pirates? There's not a whole lot. I felt that
Not a
to
whole
be
lot.
weird.
Yeah. Maybe if the Braves advance, we'll see Charlie Morton, but as of now, he's injured. So yeah, I think that just leaves what we went through it. Adam Frazier for Baltimore.
Yep.
Who is
Dodge.
also he's kind of just like a role player on that team. He's not even like an everyday guy. Who else is there? There's
So for the Dodgers have Shelby Miller.
Shelby Miller. I guess we got to count Shelby Miller technically
10
as a
games.
former Pirate.
The Astros have Robbie Grossman.
Yeah, forgive me if I don't quite that Shelby Miller era during the 2021 Pirates at the end of the year. I don't think that was an era that I wish to remember much in my life.
Yeah, well, there's part of that. And there's also like, I mean, we were talking about too. My question was, wait, was Shelby Miller? Because I knew the transaction existed, but I was like, did Shelby Miller even pitch? He did.
He technically pitched.
Games.
Yeah, not very well. He didn't do very well.
And
I think I could have swore they used him as an opener once, but they must have not done it because it was 10 bullpen appearances for Shelby Miller.
Yeah. And then I did misspeak. I said Robbie Grossman, the Astros. I feel that still exists. No, Robbie Grossman for the Rangers, but as well as Chris Stratton and Austin Hedges. So like 3 ex-Pirates for the Rangers. So I guess maybe if you have rooting interest in that sense, right, Pirates, the Rangers are your team this year.
Yeah, Austin Hedges probably had his most monumental postseason moment the other day when he did the finger guns. I don't expect him to see the field ever, as evidenced by his entire 2 months on the Texas Rangers, and he had 25 plate appearances in 2 months worth of games. Yeah,
there might be a reason if you look at this graphic and it's of Austin Hedges pitching.
Yeah. Well, I think Rangers fans, for the most part, they saw him pitch more. He pitched 4 games.
Yeah.
He pitched 3 2/3 innings with a 4.91 ERA. Like he was more valuable to them on the mound than he was anywhere else.
You know, I didn't look this part up. This would be funny. Did he face more batters or more pitchers in his time in Texas?
Oh, that's yeah. That's a good point. I don't know. I guess we
keep
could,
talking. I'll see if I can find anything.
So, but he did do the finger guns, earlier in the series. He is strictly on that roster. He's basically a third catcher that they're carrying, because they do want to play both Mitch Garver and Jonah Heim in their lineup, one catching, one DHing at all times. So, when you're playing both of your catchers every day, it kind of makes sense to have that third guy. So he's simply there, like in case something bad happens, and then you're forced to turn to him. But yeah, don't expect Austin Hedges to get too much playing time unless there's maybe a blowout situation and they need somebody to to eat an inning on the mound.
Yeah, you're right, and that's the thing too. Like this Texas Rangers lineup, I mean, it's good. I mean, obviously we're talking about the Dodgers and Braves, but like the Rangers lineup is pretty damn good too. Just put it out there. He faced 16 batters.
Okay. So he had
24 plate appearances.
Okay.
And with that, there was 1, 2, 3, 4 games. It looked like he probably started and had 3 or more plate appearances. So still, though, probably
Yeah.
faced more pitchers than batters, but it's close.
Yeah,
It's
that is
damn close.
close.
And I don't know how
That
many
is close.
overlaps with these games. Like I don't know, like when he faced, one team earlier, like the Angels, if it was the same pitcher or not. But anyways, yeah, there you
Yeah.
have it. There's potential he faced more batters than pitchers in his time in Texas.
Bucko Mike says he was better than Colin Selby on the mound, and that's actually a fact, unfortunately.
Could the Pirates been 500 if Austin Hedges was in the bullpen and
Yeah,
not
maybe
behind the plate this year?
they should have just moved him to the bullpen. He could have been like a bullpen catcher / pitcher.
There you go.
Maybe like
He
the
had
like he
value. They
could.
just didn't see it.
Yeah, they just weren't using him correctly. That's what it was.
No.
What if
So
you
we're back
had
to
like a
Mac
Bugs
Baker.
Bunny situation, where you have Austin Hedges throwing to Austin Hedges? That could be valuable because then you could put a whole other person in the field. Like if Austin Hedges, like how Shohei Ohtani's so valuable because he can hit
Right.
and pitch. If you can pitch and catch at the same time, you can stick maybe a fourth outfielder out there, or maybe you plug an infielder in like a rover position. That's the new market inefficiency. Our pitchers / catchers.
I like that. And also because if you can pitch and catch your own, you probably are going to need a fourth outfielder. So
That's true.
maybe 8 of them.
Lots of floater pitches, like from
Right.
Rookie of the Year.
There it is.
Hey, it worked.
Mom,
It
is
worked
that
in the
you?
movie. It worked.
The pitch did, not the actual pitcher throwing to himself. Parts.
Yeah, that's more of a cartoon situation, and
Right.
so. But hey, no one's ever tried it, as far as I know.
Also, the whole fact of like you have to have a catcher.
Well, he would still technically be a catcher. Like he would be there.
I guess.
Like, I don't know how the
rules defined. Do you have to have a catcher before the pitch is thrown?
That's true, because there is a rule in baseball that you need to have somebody in the catcher position. I just don't know if the wording is like, does it need to be there when the pitch is thrown? Because
Right.
if you can move someone there right after the pitch, then that's how it would work.
And since no one ever thought this would be possible, it could be one of those technicalities. Like it's not defined that way. You probably could get away with it because no one said that a guy has to be catching before the pitch is made, because no one ever thought it'd be possible for someone to get in the crouching position and catch the ball after it was thrown.
Yeah. I think we should see a team try it.
We should. I'm with you. And of course, the only reason we know that rule is because we thought about throwing without a catcher before and we had to look up. It was your stupid idea back then too.
That was
One
a
of them.
stupid idea on my part.
Right. Like, why have a catcher? Just have another defender.
But you know what that means? That means someone else had probably thought of it before and tried it. And so they were like, no, we need to make this rule.
Yeah,
That says there
that's
has to be
fair.
a catcher. Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, this has been a lot of nonsense now. So do we want to get out of here?
Yeah, let's get out of here. We spent way too much time on like hypothetical Austin Hedges situations.
Right. Oh, that would be fun though. I feel like we could have a lot of fun. Anyways, let's get out of here though. Appreciate everyone for watching, listening to the podcast. Thank you for listening as well. Check out our YouTube page if you haven't. But yeah, we'll be back again this week. We have some things coming up. So with that said, bye-bye.
See you guys.
Hey, you all. Thank you for watching. I know we try to provide the most entertaining content that we can, and we'd love to spread it to as many people as possible. So I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you could take the 5 seconds to like this video and subscribe to the page, it helps out so much more than you know. Thank you, and let's go Bucks.